Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, just to get an update from Mr. Garba Shehu, who is the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity about the President in Russia. He joins us on via Skype this morning. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. So, at the moment, has the President, I assure you, must have settled in properly. So what do we expect? What's the activity for this morning in Russia concerning this meeting?
The President just drove out of the hotel on his way to the conference center. The proper Africa-Russia Economic Summit will open this morning. And after that, the President is going to have an important meeting with President Putin later in the afternoon. And of course, there are also events slated for the evening. This is for today. Tomorrow, there will be the plenary of the Russia-Africa Summit. And Africa leaders would get 4 minutes of time to speak. President Buhari will be delivering an address. And thereafter, he has about 5 or 6 other bilateral meetings, including a meeting with the Nigerian professionals in Sochi, Russia. Before the events of the night, a banquet dinner and a cultural entertainment for the visiting heads of state and government.
But Mr. Shehu, you know, on a lighter note, in all the years I've known you, I've never seen you in this, because I always asking my directors, wait a minute, do we have the right man here? But
well, sometimes also you also catch the cultural fever abroad, so you shed off the babariga and appear like they do. But I assure you that back in Nigeria, I will resort to my kaftan and a big gown.
Okay, but I know that it's Russia-Africa Summit, but do we as a country have a specific plan of what we intend to get from this meeting?
Oh, obviously, yes. This is why this meeting with the President Putin is important for President Buhari. There are about 50 African heads of state and prime ministers who are already here. But of all of this, only 5 have one-on-one meetings with President Putin, and President Buhari is one of the 5. It is hoped that at that meeting, President Buhari will go with a basket of demands, and top of which, of course, is the issue of Ajaokuta. Look, Ajaokuta has failed to work since the Russians walk away. And the thinking in our delegation is that they should be persuaded to come and complete it and put it to use. We have enormous gas resources. You know, Russia has made the most success of their gas resources in the world. We want to do, we want to learn from them, enter into partnerships, do gas pipelines, and also market our own gas abroad. There are issues of science and technology, power, nuclear energy, and military armaments, education, culture, and investment and trade. So really there are many issues we have, and the President is really ready to go and make those demands.
So Africa appears to be the new bride in the world. I mean, there's the China-Africa Summit, the Japan-Africa Summit, and some others. And beyond that, there's always this question of what kind of deal Africa, in fact, specifically Nigeria, always gets out of this sort of, summits and agreements. So what are we doing to ensure, and there's no pun intended here, but what are we doing to ensure we are putting our best foot forward in this summit?
Well, international relations for all countries is governed by self-interest, national interest of nations. The Nigerian delegation led by President Muhammadu Buhari is here to do no other thing than to promote the best interests of Nigeria. Africa appears to be on the front and the dialogue of everyone because, these countries are seeing the enormous opportunities that lie ahead of Africa. Much of it remains unexploited. The discussion taking place here And elsewhere, as you have mentioned, is on the basis of a win-win for them and for ourselves. We have about 200 Nigerian participants who have come to be part of the Russia-Africa business discussion. These are businessmen who are looking to what they can make or what they can get out of Russia. And the Russian businessmen are also going to be there exploring what it is there for them, for Nigeria as Africa's leading economy and the rest of the continent. So everyone is a winner, hopefully so.
Well, one of the things that a number of people will also be wondering is, okay, so we've had the US Africa, we've had the UK Africa, and a number of other, countries of the world that are trying to partner with Africa. The question a number of people are asking is, isn't this some sort of economic colonization? And how are we protecting ourselves, especially in the light of the AFTA deal that Africa has signed among themselves?
Well, here is what we are looking at. We are not saying that relationships we have had with Europe and all of those partners over the years have not been useful. They have had their gains, they still do. But if you have an offer for the kind of things that are happening, say, between Nigeria and China, huge investments in railway, in roads, in power. I mean, we have waited for too long to get these things done. And this country cannot achieve national development without infrastructure such as the ones we're dealing with. And the difference, it's a global competition, and let's enjoy it. Look, the Chinese would give you project, will give you loan. Europeans will give you a project, and they will show you the door to a bank and say, well, there is a bank, go and get money. You know that? So therefore, I mean, these things are being easier done through some of these relationships than most people think.
One more thing, Mr. Shehu. Can we get a little more specifics about Ajaokuta? So what are we asking for? Is it that it depends on what we eventually agree, but one thing is to ask, are we going to request of them to come back in? Because I think at that time, Ajaokuta was about 98% done, if I remember properly. But are we asking them to come back in, take over, get it operational, and then with a view to getting the private sector also to be in the front lines or side by side? What kind of request is that going to be?
Okay, we have the Minister of Mines and Steel on the delegation. He's going to sit down with his counterparts to discuss these things. And so I'm not reporting to you any final deals in this regard. But the sense we have is that we had been careless with Ajaokuta, and we need to go back to it because Nigeria has invested so much money into it. A lot of Nigerians, thousands of them, have been trained to participate. Nigeria is importing even bullets that our policemen and the military fire. These are things that can be manufactured from Ajaokuta. So in the past, the Russians had said they wanted business people to come in front and take over. What President Buhari is offering is a government-to-government, the deal. That brings with it credibility and reliability. Of course, don't forget that at some point, a government in Nigeria had given this thing at a giveaway, if you like, to some Indian businessmen. These businessmen are in court as we speak. They probably would resort to arbitration and all of that. But I think that if the Nigerian government is able to establish fraud and impropriety, as we are doing with the P and ID, we probably would walk them out of Ajaokuta and have government-to-government relationship to revive and to achieve its full realization.
Okay, could you speak to this? Because there are those who think that in the president's trips and journeys for this kind of business, economic summit meetings, they should have a lot more of private sector individuals in that delegation rather than more of maybe government agents. I say, well, what's your thinking concerning that? Or what is he thinking of the presidency regarding that?
I think people who say this don't appreciate this. In all of the president's delegation, I can tell you, probably 2 dozen, less than 30, including the ministers and the governors who are here, security, protocol, and media. But I've told you that I am aware that the Russian embassy in Abuja had given 250 visas to people, private people who are coming. So it's their own show, really, more of business than government.
Mr. Shehu, we know it's a busy schedule, and we certainly do look forward to a fruitful conversation and agreement, particularly as you've highlighted with that of Ajaokuta. Thank you for talking to us this morning.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right, Garba Shehu, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity.